Link to original text and writer's account is in the description. Traditional stellar warfare had evolved into a form of trench warfare like the kind that many species had reached in their industrial era. Star systems only have a few feasible gate entrances, and any species expecting war built up layers upon layers of defenses at all ingress points. This made assaults extremely costly, although a determined and concentrated force could punch through. Of course, counterattacks usually just threw the invaders right back out, costing both sides tens of thousands of casualties and millions of credits and ships for no significant gain. Then humanity got into their first war and rewrote the playbook. Humans had a bit of a reputation going into their first interstellar conflict. Intelligence agencies had verified that their industrial era had been particularly violent, even involving nuclear weaponry in at least one war. As a species they were still untested, their technology fledgling, and the Tau Ceti system looked pretty juicy to the Arnellians. The Arnellian plan was simple: declare war, hit them hard, and force the system as a concession. This was almost gentle. Many species had been kicked back into their home system in their first real war. The invasion of Tau Ceti went smoothly. The humans were overwhelmed after a week, and the Arnellians managed to set up 2 proper layers of defense within the next month. The Galactic community shrugged and mentally labeled humans as decent contenders but still weak. Fighting for a week against those forces indicated some serious martial spirit. But the shouts of the brave are as meaningless as the cries of the cowardly in the vacuum of space, unless backed by actual firepower. Then the Arnellian home system was hit from 6 different directions simultaneously, none of them a known gate ingress point. The very defense designs that made them easy to retake by counterattack rendered them vulnerable to this unexpected assault. The valiant defenders were annihilated with almost contemptuous ease. The Arnellian counterattack retook the system just a day later, but their core shipyards had already been ravaged. Even their fuel depots had been irradiated such that it would take decades to repair. They sued for peace and got away with fiscal penalties and the loss of a few mining systems. But how had the humans done it? How did they so dramatically improve warp travel so quickly? It turns out, they didn't improve warp travel at all. Humans had, in fact, initially screwed up their warp calculations, dramatically limiting the distance they could cover. Incidentally, their warp drives are still subpar. Nonetheless, to compensate for their initial mistake, humanity invented a way to artificially create a gate target to use as a stepping stone, so they could actually reach systems at all. The crux of the human technique was to launch a few of the biggest warp-suitable asteroids possible on a collision course to all intersect at the exact same time, and then send rapid tugboats out to stabilize it all into a proper gate target. How in the ever-loving void humans found these near-impossible calculations to be easier than just getting their warp calculations correct in the first place is still a mystery to the galaxy. For redacted's sake, you've got to synchronize the warp dilation of at least 3 separate planes, just to even have a 15% chance of reaching enough mass with a 5 picosecond tolerance. Just forget about it. The human scientists discussing this burst out laughing when the alien they explained this to remarked, "So you are saying that your solution to warp travel issues was literally just to throw rocks at it?" The use to which humans put their workaround had a dramatic impact on many things, most immediately warfare. But linguistics also was affected. A human failure became a phrase in most galactic languages, referring to a mistake whose solution was more useful than the initial problem itself. Notes from the military historian Jeutnarg Kurland on the Terran counterattack on Arnel Prime. Later intelligence revealed that humanity had only taken so long to counterattack the Arnellian home planet because it took them over a month to argue the exact details on the combined assault. The Americans argued for a week that the assault landing points be named Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword. The fact that this was only 5 names and there were 6 planned attack points proved difficult to address. The American diplomat responded to such criticism by insisting that the metric system was skip and by God he would not, redacted, use that communist nonsense. The Russians stubbornly insisted on taking the toughest landing point so they could have bragging rights of the most casualties. The Canadians insisted on a no prisoners policy. This was surprisingly difficult to talk them down from. Chinese demanded that they be given intellectual property rights on any tech from the shipyards. The British didn't have much to say about the invasion, but insisted that the surrender be accepted directly by Queen Elizabeth, and that the Arnellians be served tea in chilled porcelain, so it would be abysmally tepid by the time they got around to taking a sip.